Day 361 of the Trump administration, a day devoted, of course, to remembrance of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and politically, the start of a critical week for this White House. The president is back in Washington from Florida, where the firestorm ignited by racist comments he's quoted as having made about Africans and Haitians at a meeting in the Oval Office has not died down. And tonight, Robert Costa of the Washington Post, who will join us right here in just a moment, is now reporting on that meeting in the Oval Office. White House officials and congressional aides tell the Post this, quote, when President Trump spoke by phone with Senator Richard J. Durbin around 10:15 a.m. last Thursday, he expressed pleasure with Durbin's outline of a bipartisan immigration pact and praised the high-ranking Illinois Democrats' efforts. The president then asked if Senator Lindsey Graham, his one-time foe turned ally, was on board, which Durbin affirmed. But when they arrived at the Oval Office, the two senators were surprised to find that Trump was far from ready to finalize the agreement. He was, quote, fired up and surrounded by hardline conservatives such as Senator Tom Cotton, and he shrugged off suggestions from Durbin and others. The president called nations from Africa blank hole countries, denigrated Haiti, and grew angry. Also tonight, there are new concerns that the rift over those remarks threatens efforts to prevent a government shutdown for the end of this week, as well as the ability to reach any sort of a deal on immigration. Last night, the president was asked about the potential political fallout from this latest controversy.
Honestly, I don't think the Democrats want to make a deal. I think they talk about DACA, but they don't want to help the DACA people.
Do you think your comments the other day made it harder?
Did you see what various senators in the room said about my comments? They weren't made. Well, what do you think all the people are making a racist? No, I'm not a racist. I am the least racist person you have ever interviewed. That I can tell you.
Well, today, Senator Durbin of Illinois continued to stand by his account of what was said at that meeting.
I know what happened. I stand behind every word that I said. What the president said in that meeting was so awful and so impactful on so many people that when he denied saying it, I felt duty-bound to clarify what actually happened.
So that renewed pushback right there brought this tweet and a newly minted nickname from the president. Quote, Senator Dickie Durbin today misrepresented what was said at the DACA meeting. Deals can't get made when there is no trust. Durbin blew DACA and is hurting our military. And the president is now getting new backup from two Republican allies who were also in that meeting, who you may recall just last week said they did not recall hearing those remarks. This is what they're saying now.
The problem is when you get to the Washington politicians, the career politicians who want to pander to their base, what we have going on here right now is a gross misrepresentation.
Are you saying the president did not use the word that has been so widely reported?
I'm telling you he did not use that word, George, and I'm telling you it's a gross misrepresentation.
I didn't hear that word either. I certainly didn't hear what Senator Durbin has said repeatedly. Senator Durbin has a history of misrepresenting what happens in White House meetings, though, so perhaps we shouldn't be surprised by that.
You're saying it did not happen, or or you just don't recall?
I didn't hear it, and I was sitting no further away from Donald Trump than Dick Durbin was, and I know what Dick Durbin has said about the president's repeated statements is incorrect.
Another Republican who was there, Senator Lindsey Graham, refused to support their accounts. In an interview with the South Carolina Post and Courier, Graham told reporter Jamie Lovegrove that, quote, my memory hasn't evolved. I know what was said, and I know what I said. Graham also said this today about negotiations over immigration.
The discourse right now is pretty low. We're producing some pretty good policy, but those of us in my business need to up their game. It's pretty embarrassing when you have to take your children out of the room just to report the news. My now famous meeting with the president was about solving a problem to secure our country and to be compassionate and understanding of these 800,000 children. It's going to take you, Mr. President, working with Republicans and Democrats to get this done. It's not going to be done on Twitter, by tweeting. It's going to be done by talking and understanding.
On that note, we turn to our leadoff panel for a Monday night, two of whom we've mentioned already. Robert Costa, national political reporter for The Washington Post, moderator of Washington Week on PBS. Kimberly Atkins is back with us, chief Washington reporter for the Boston Herald. And we welcome to this broadcast the aforementioned Jamie Lovegrove, political reporter for the Post and Courier, the oldest newspaper in South Carolina. Welcome to you all. And Robert, a bunch of us read your account tonight about the meeting, about the now famous meeting on immigration. For folks who have not had the pleasure or the chance, tell us your reporting on what transpired.
Where to start, Brian? Working alongside my colleagues Josh Dawsey and Ashley Parker today, we painted a picture of what exactly happened last week. And Dick Durbin, the Illinois Democrat and senator, working with Senator Lindsey Graham, they had a bipartisan agreement that they floated on Wednesday amongst each other on Capitol Hill. They brought it to President Trump. He was okay, we're told by White House officials and friends of the president, with the broad strokes, but it all fell apart. Conservatives inside of Congress said to the president, hold up, including White House Chief of Staff John Kelly, and that deal fell apart on Thursday, and that's when the president made these comments that have since exploded the talks about maybe having the government not shut down, having an immigration deal at the same time.
Robert, somebody on CNN said tonight, quoting a source familiar with the president's thinking, that he's fine with the way it went down and the way it's been characterized. Between you, Ashley, and Josh, tell us what you've been able to gather, again, about the president's thinking. Bring us right up to the moment.
I can back up that reporting, Brian. We put in our story tonight how the president was calling his friends and advisors after the remark was reported by the Washington Post, and he was asking, maybe it plays well with my conservative base. Maybe they're not going to break with me because of this comment. And on Thursday night, we report White House officials, they weren't setting up a war room because of the vulgarity that was uttered in this Oval Office meeting. Instead, they were going to Cafe Milano, a fancy Georgetown restaurant, to toast Dina Powell, one of the departing Deputy National Security Advisors. They were really believing the president was going to make it past this controversy, as he has at times in the past. But ever since then, the immigration talks have unraveled, and that's why Senator Graham went on the record today with the Post and Courier, with the Washington Post. He is so aware that these talks are fragile, and the Dreamers, their permits are set to expire in the coming weeks and months, and this is an issue that can't be ignored in his view.
And Jamie, noting for our viewers that you cover the senator and don't speak for him, I'm going to ask you, while avoiding crossing a line into analysis, describe his level of surprise or disgust coming out of the meeting. And if you don't mind, take a whack at the question of why Senator Graham has been so hard to nail down lately. He has been all over the map politically.
Yeah, you're right, Brian. I mean, I think Senator Graham was he was affected by Thursday's meeting. You know, there's a running joke down here in Columbia that the most dangerous place to be in South Carolina is in between Lindsey Graham and a microphone. He's normally one who is not afraid at all to talk to the media. He loves to share his thoughts as much as possible. But he went radio silent over the weekend. We got a statement from him Friday afternoon about this meeting, but very little else from Graham or folks close to him. You know, when I talked to him this morning for about 15 minutes, he had clearly taken some time over the weekend to think about the best path forward from here, to think about how he can avoid making this episode even more damaging to these negotiations moving forward. And the way he decided to do that is by declining to explicitly confirm these comments, but to say, you know, that my memory hasn't evolved. Clearly a pointed jab at Senators Cotton and Perdue over this. But he is very careful not to cross a line and not to reach a point of no return, to balance his frustration with what he said was a very different Donald Trump on Thursday than what we had seen 2 days earlier in that televised bipartisan meeting. He doesn't want to upset the relationship that he's built for several months now, that he's courted the president on the golf course. You know, this was really what it was all about, and he doesn't want to let all of that effort go to waste just over, you know, one comment that he found clearly very upsetting.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.